Can you hear me okay? Is that on? I want you to come with me to a conference room, 19 floors above the streets of New York. You're an executive at a large healthcare company, and you've been flown into the city by a group of management consultants who want to help your company perform better. At the front of the room stands a woman, and behind her, she has PowerPoint slides. And on those slides, there are charts with data about your company. There are recommendations about how they can help your company improve. She's presented information about your team and all the things that her team can do to help those leaders thrive. From the outside, everything looks great. Her team is more than qualified, and this company really could help you. But you can't shake this feeling that you're bored and that she doesn't know you and that you don't know her, and you can't hire someone to help you if you don't feel that connection. And that woman standing at the front of the room is me. My boss later told me what I should have understood all along. She said, Sam, you didn't tell a story to that client. You didn't paint a picture of a future world that they could see themselves in. There was nothing to humanize your message. And I was floored because I thought everything had gone so well. But what she was really telling me was that my inability to tell a compelling story stood between me and the ability to communicate with others. And it turns out that this was the greatest piece of feedback, both in my career and elsewhere, that I ever received, because it forced me to put stories at the center of everything that I do. Now, everyone on some level knows that stories are important, but few people know how to tell them well. Let me ask you, do you tell stories? Yes. Do your stories have impact? Maybe. Are they as powerful as they could be? Probably not. That's why I'm so glad you're here, because we're going to walk through the one super simple step to telling better stories. And let's level set a little bit. Everyone has a story to share. Your life is just a long list of story-worthy little moments that are woven together into a fabric, like a rich tapestry that eventually becomes your identity, just moment after moment of stories waiting to be told. As we know from ancient cave drawings, from oral stories passed down from generation to generation, stories are key to how humans communicate and how humans survive. Way back when, our ancestors would tell stories about the woolly mammoth or evil things in caves to help the species remember them and move on and survive from generation to generation. These stories also entertained. Stories help bond people. It helped connect our ancestors and pass those lessons along. And humans also tell stories to paint pictures of things that haven't happened yet, to inspire people to take action and move towards a common goal. Now, stories today serve these same purposes, albeit slightly different, than those ancient stories. The Moth, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the art and craft of storytelling, really says it best. Stories are the currency of community. They tear down walls, they unite cultures, and help people realize they are more alike than different, all while celebrating what is unique to you. Now, if stories truly are the currency of community, they have the ability to make you wealthy. They are a source of abundance. But I don't mean wealthy in terms of monetary riches. They can provide depth and substance to your human connections in ways that other things just can't. Which is why, as I said, I want to share the one super simple tip to telling better stories. The key to the best story is, ready? Structure it into 3 parts. No, that is incorrect. I meant to say 7 parts, but then Shakespeare actually recommended 5 parts, and he had a dramatic pyramid in his story structure. And he's Shakespeare, and there's a dramatic pyramid. So maybe we should go with that one as far as our storytelling models go. Okay, so it's not actually the story structure that makes the difference. So maybe it's in the details. We've all heard this. Stories need to have lots of details to be compelling. Sight, sound, taste, touch, smell. Which is like a little odd, because if I were to tell you how that 19th floor conference room smelled in the beginning, really probably wouldn't have changed my story all that much. A story can have structure, a story can have details, and it can still fall flat. It can be missing the magic. And that's because some stories are missing something that is far, far more human. And that is a reframed, more powerful protagonist. Oftentimes we think about the protagonist in a story as singular, just one person, the main character. But that is not correct. The one tip to telling better stories is to root your protagonist in we. We is defined as me, the person telling the story, and you, the audience. So much so, storytellers, they think about what they want to say. They say, this story is about me, it's about what I want to communicate, but they miss the other half of the equation, which is knowing, what do you need to hear to make the story resonate and to land? When those two things come together, that's where the real story magic happens. And people want to see themselves in your story, even if it's a personal story. And that's where you want to think about this reframed protagonist, rooting the protagonist in we. It's a little bit like a hybrid. The main character doesn't actually have to be a mix, but elements of the audience should be present in the protagonist so that people can see themselves in the story that you're telling. Now, how do you do this? I have 3 simple steps that you can walk through whenever you tell a story that will show how you can reframe the protagonist and root it in we. Step 1, focus on a single person. If you're telling a story, there's a tendency to say, I want to resonate with as many people as possible, and I want to touch everyone in the room. But what this does is it dilutes the power of your narrator, because you're not really clear on who you should be talking to and what you want to be saying. So as you start to craft your story, think of a single person you want to wow. You can absolutely share your story with many, many more people, but focus in on that single person. There's an anecdote here that really brings it to life. Brian Chesky is the founder of Airbnb, one of the world's most famous brands. And he went through Technology Accelerator Y Combinator. And there he heard the advice to focus on building a product that 100 people love rather than something 1 million people kind of like. Because if 100 people really love a product, they're going to promote it, they're going to use it, and it's going to spread like wildfire. This has led him to give similar advice when founders come to him and say, how should I grow? What should I do? He has said, if you want to create a great product, focus on just one person. Make that one person have the most amazing experience ever. And this goes for storytelling too. If you want to create and tell a great story, focus on just one person and make that one person hear the most amazing story ever. Because if a couple hundred people or 1 million people kind of like your story, no one will remember it. But if one person loves it, it will stick in their hearts and their minds forever. And what makes people remember it is when they can see themselves in your message, when they can see themselves as the protagonist. So remember, even in a personal story, the protagonist isn't just me, it's me plus you. The second step is to hone in on what this single person really, really cares about. And I mean, what do they really care about? Like, what are their hopes and their dreams and the things that keep them up at night? And admittedly, this is a little bit hard. How do you know what your audience really needs to hear? How do you know what's on their mind? It requires empathy. It requires perspective taking. And sometimes it requires that you just ask them and spend time getting to know someone. If you ask me what my partner really cares about, I could tell you with a high degree of certainty what really makes him tick. If you ask me the same question about a coworker, I'd have some idea. I know about their kids, maybe where they live, what they do on the weekend, but I don't know what keeps them up at night. I don't know what motivates them and inspires them to move forward. I have a great example of this. I was in my early 20s and I was going to make my first adult car purchase. And I was single, super career focused, and spent my weekends camping and hiking with friends. And I'd done all my research and I had my first job and I said, okay, the Jeep Grand Cherokee is the perfect car for me. It's like the perfect mix of corporate lady car mixed with rugged outdoors woman. So I head into the dealership and the salesman's hitting me with all the main points. It's a 3.6 liter V6. It has leather seats, 4-wheel drive. And he opens up the back seat and he says, the back seat is perfectly constructed to hold a car seat. I said, a car seat? Like for a baby? I don't even have a boyfriend. He said, oh, okay, well, that's okay. Opens the trunk and he says, here is where you'll put the stroller and your husband's gonna love this. You can put all the toys for the beach. And my single lady life, my corporate single lady life flashed before my eyes and I just saw soccer mom. So I left and I walked across the street and I bought a Mazda. And I think back on this story because that salesman, he told me a story with a strong female protagonist, a maternal one. But what he didn't do was make it so that I could see myself in that story. And I wanted to feel like the protagonist in my own car purchase, but he alienated me by not thinking through what was really, really important to me. Because remember, in a story, even a personal story, the most powerful protagonist isn't just me, it's me plus you. Step 3 is to pick a unifying, universal theme for your protagonist. You've gotten through step 1. You have a single person in mind. You've gone through step 2. You know what they really, really care about. What is the theme that is going to anchor your protagonist? It's really going to kind of become their ethos in a way. Give them something to think about. People connect and build bonds. They showcase their identities through shared experiences. And the universal theme essentially serves as the anchor to help people understand the experience of another. So there are many themes to choose from, love conquers all, overcoming fear, humans versus technology, coming of age. It can be anything, but it all depends on who your one-person audience is and what they really, really care about. A couple of months ago, I was in New York and I was watching one of my favorite folk musicians play. And the best thing about this musician is he not only has amazing music, but he tells these stories in between his songs that are truly incredible. Like they're so incredible that they record them and put them in his live albums. And he told this one story about when he graduated from college a number of years ago. He went to a very expensive liberal arts school, and he came out and decided he was going to be a folk musician, much to his father's dismay. And as he was leaving the house one day to go to a gig, his dad said, "Son, you can't keep doing this." And he said, "I can't keep doing what?" And dad said, "You can't keep doing music. You have to get a real job." And this experience put a rift between he and his dad for a long time, as he had to figure out whether to navigate that experience by making his own choice or by doing what his father wanted. And I'm sitting in the bar here and I'm tearing up, not because I've ever wanted to be a folk musician. There is no musical talent in single bone in this body, but because he told a coming of age story and it hit me right between the eyes like an arrow. He was the main character in the story, but I was the protagonist too. Because remember, even a personal story, the protagonist isn't just me, it's me plus you. Now, these 3 steps will unlock a more powerful protagonist, a reframed protagonist, a protagonist that presents in a way that it's not just what we normally think about when we tell stories. The result is a more impactful personal story. Your stories will be more memorable because people will see themselves in them. They'll be more impactful because people are more likely to understand your journey and come along with them. And they'll be more powerful because anything that sticks in someone's heart and mind is what ultimately lasts. Personally, these stories will help you connect with other human beings. And they actually, by reframing the protagonist, will help your identity shine brighter because other people will understand you in a way that they didn't before. Professionally, they'll help you communicate with confidence and clarity. Your teammates, your colleagues, your clients, people will understand what you're saying. And stories, especially with a powerful protagonist, will humanize the work that you do. It is my hope that you have no painful moments like I had on the 19th floor in that conference room. The world needs more responsible and compassionate leaders. The world needs more people who can connect authentically and humanly and let their identity shine bright. And reframing the protagonist can help you do just that as you communicate with other people. For all this time, it turns out people have just been asking simply the wrong question when it comes to stories. We've been asking, how does this story highlight who I am? Versus asking, how does my story show you who you are? Thank you.